When we first realized George was missing, I reached out to the defendant and spoke with her. She told me, she said, "Dad, I would never do anything to hurt George." She called me Dad.
Did he want to leave the house?
No.
Did he ask you to call for help?
He just told me to save him, try to save him.
And why didn't you?
Save him?
He's asking, he's bleeding out, there's blood all over the house. This has taken a long period of time. You've Google searched, how long does it take someone to die after being stabbed in the abdomen multiple times?
Just panic. I panicked.
You would rather have seen him die then than get help? This was your Google search, right?
Yes.
How long does it take someone to die? Yes?
He was still breathing, still conscious, still begging. And the one person in that room who could have picked up a phone and dialed 3 numbers didn't. She didn't rush to his side. She didn't press a cloth to his wounds. She didn't scream for a neighbor, bang on a wall, or step outside to flag anyone down. She grabbed her phone and Googled whether someone could survive a stab wound to the stomach.
There's blood all over the house. This has taken a long period of time. You've Google searched, how long does it take someone to die after being stabbed in the abdomen multiple times?
Just panic. I panicked.
Let that sit with you for a second. George Cox Jr. was 32 years old. He was bleeding out in his own apartment in Cleveland, Ohio, and the woman who put him in that position was treating his life like a search query. But that's not even the most disturbing part of the story. What came next involved 2 other people, a bed sheet, a rope, a 75-minute drive, and a decision that would keep George's family in the dark for over 6 months. Not knowing where he was, not knowing what happened, just waiting.
Well, it is a mystery that so far police have not been able to solve. A body washed up in a river, and police are telling us this does not look like an accident. But no one has come forward to ID the potential victim. But now a way the police believe you can help in making an ID. Catherine Huntley here now, live with this story.
When we first realized George was missing, I reached out to the defendant and spoke with her. She told me, she said, "Dad, I would never do anything to hurt George." She called me Dad. Knowing that my son was floating in the river somewhere with his body just decomposing, knowing that he had been hog-tied, wrapped in a sheet, drove an hour and 15 minutes away, and thrown in the water like he was just garbage and trash.
Welcome to True Crime Station. I'm glad you're here because George Cox Jr. deserves to have his story told, and the people responsible deserve to have their actions seen. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. Stories like this one are exactly why this channel exists. Let's get into it.
A kayaker found a body in a Huron River marsh. That body remains unidentified. So now the sheriff's office is hoping the public will be able to identify some of the tattoos on that body. Take a good look. These are some possibly recognizable tattoos on the Erie County John Doe. Law enforcement is hoping someone might know who or what organizations they belong to.
Study the tattoos, talk to people, anybody that does tattoos or anybody that has knowledge of gangs within Toledo to Cleveland, give us a call. We'd be more than happy to listen to you.
Police say the man was 5 feet 6 inches tall, black, around 160 pounds, with dark facial hair and around 20 to mid-30s in age. The body was found just south of the Route 2 bridge in the Huron River. They don't know the cause of death yet, but police say it is suspicious. He was found in a fitted bed sheet tied around the ankles with marine-style rope.
Definitely deemed suspicious based on how we discovered the body, the sheets.
They also aren't sure how long the body was in the water. Could be several weeks to months. Because of that, the body was in very poor condition, so they need the public's help. Once they know who it is, they can work backwards to find out how he died and who was involved. They are hoping it all starts with understanding these tattoos.
We've kind of narrowed it down to specific organizations that this individual may have been involved with, but that's to be determined yet. So most important part is getting the identification so we can have closure for the family.
In Huron, Catherine Huntley, 19 News.
We didn't even have the opportunity to properly bury him because his body was so decomposed. This is what I wound up going to the morgue to see. This is what I had to go see. That's what I had to see, Judge. And it's so hurtful and so, I can't even describe it. That's something I'm going to have to live with for the rest of my life. We had to cremate him because I couldn't put him in the ground looking like that. I couldn't. His daughter asked me, Granddad, why did you burn my dad up? And I'm going to have to explain that to her one day. I mean, it's been hard on this family.
All right. Go ahead.
My name is Sonia Calloway. I am the mother of George Cox Jr.
Please, what would you like to say?
I would just like to say thank you to the detectives and to the court system for diligently working to find our son. I know the story, but I do want to say that that is a tragedy that could have been avoided, and that no amount of time replaced the loss of my baby. But I do appreciate you all, and I just want to make sure that this doesn't happen to someone else's child and somebody else's family. And I want to say thank you.
I appreciate you being here today and to finding the courage to come forward and talk about this. All right. Thank you very much. Could you please let me know what your name is?
My name is Lynette Marie Ford.
And how do you spell your last name?
F-O-R-D.
Thank you. What would you like to say?
First of all, I'd like to say thank you, Jesus. And I'd like to thank the detective and all the officers that worked so diligently to find my nephew and bring this to the courts. George Cox Jr. was my first nephew, the very first. I have no children. He was like a child to me, even though he had his parents. But the joy that I used to have with him since a little child until he was grown. Last time I saw him was on my birthday, the day, July 24, 2024. This is very upsetting to me. There is no amount of time that this person could get to bring back my nephew. That person will have family to come and visit her. I will never see my nephew again, ever. He has a daughter that she will never, probably won't even remember her father. She's only 8 years old. And Your Honor, for somebody to do what they did to my nephew, it wouldn't surprise me if they have done this before. How can somebody do something so terrible? You know, it could have been avoided. It could have been avoided. And I'm angry, Your Honor. I'm very, very upset. This has tore our family up tremendously. So bad. So bad. And it's just so heartbreaking. And it's hard for me to stand up here and be respectful, which I am trying to do, because I was raised that way. But I want to say so many things, Your Honor, and I'm asking, I'm begging you to supersede whatever plea deal that you gave this person. So please dig down in your heart and do what's right for our family. You know, just please. If there is a child that's involved that will never see her father again, ever. And I'm very angry, Your Honor, and like I said, I'm trying to be very respectful. And I thank you for this opportunity to speak before you and express my feelings.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all of your words. What is your name?
My name, I'm Chaplain Candace, C-A-N-D-I-C-E, Amos. Your Honor, I would also like to thank everyone, and I would like to read my statement because I would like to be very clear about my nephew and how I loved him. And I would never understand why Diamond Benden murdered my nephew and tossed his body out like garbage. We will never recover from our loss. He was not garbage. He was a son, a grandson, a brother, an uncle, a nephew, a cousin, a friend, and certainly not last, a father. So many functions, so many responsibilities and relationships to so many people who loved him. His daughter will never know her father. His father and mother will no longer be able to touch him and love him like parents should. His siblings will no longer be able to spend time with him. Many of the relatives and friends will not be able to talk to him. He is someone that the world will not get to know because Miss Diamond murdered him in cold blood. June had hopes and dreams for his adulthood like every other young person. We know people in our history that took more time to flourish life, like Tyler Perry, example, who had a rough childhood and a young adult life. But he succeeded, and he is the first African American to own a major film production studio. One of my favorite memories of June was when he was a young child playing, and we had such great hopes for him. Because of her careless attitude and her murder, she literally threw him away. The tragedy here is that she snatched away his future at a young age of 32, before he had a time to reach his full potential. June too also was my first nephew by blood. As I remember June as a young child running around playing with his siblings and cousins at family cookouts, parties, and family reunions, I remember one holiday particularly when he was a young child. He and his mother and his siblings spent Christmas Eve night at my house. We played games, watched Christmas movies, and had so much fun, Your Honor. Then early Christmas morning, we rose around 5 a.m., sat in our PJs around the Christmas tree, opening gifts and sipping hot chocolate and coffee. When June helped to prepare, and we also had pancakes that June helped to prepare. And this was the first time he had made pancakes from scratch. I remember the look in his young eyes, realizing that he could create something from scratch, and they would taste so delicious. He was so proud, and after that I called him the Pancake King because he never wanted to use pancake from a box again. Because of memories like that were so powerful for him, he wanted to spend that time and spread it to his daughter. During the Christmas holiday again, recently before his death, June walked in my house with 2 bags full of toys for his daughter Gianna to hide at my house to take to her on Christmas Day. He wanted to hide them in my home to make sure that she would not find them. He was so dedicated and went out his way to ensure that she would experience the Christmas magic. He wanted her to experience the joy and surprise that he experienced as a child. While there, he was laying on the floor watching TV and fell asleep. And my dog kept bothering him, licking him, and trying to get him to play with her. We were laughing because June was so irritated because he could not sleep. Even my dog recognized what a special person June was and wanted to spend time with him. June will never get to continue the experience of being a father, to watch Gianna grow up, go to college, walk Gianna down the aisles and give her away at her wedding, and or be a grandfather. His daughter will never get the time to know her father. As I said, I am a chaplain, a minister, and a Christian, and most importantly, a servant of God. Because of my belief, I know I must forgive her. God emphasizes mercy, removal of sins, and the commandment to forgive others as we have been forgiven. There are many scriptures in the King James Holy Bible that I read and study and believe. And I believe Jesus took on our sins. He died and rose all those who confess their sins. And Jesus also tells us and tells me that in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 32, about kindness and forgiveness. So, Yana, I am trying to forgive her, but I do think she should be punished. I am working on forgiving her so I can be set free of my anger and resentment. But I pray to God that during her time in prison, that this young lady will find God and ask for forgiveness. Thank you for your time, and thank you for the court's time.
Thank you, Chaplain Amos.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Your Honor, I've been a police officer for nearly 30 years. and have been strictly a missing persons detective for the last 15. I unfortunately have had other cases similar to the one that we're here on today. However, this is the very first time that I felt compelled to make a statement during this part of our justice system. I've been working on this case since the beginning of November of 2024, when the missing person report was initially made. Over that time, I've had the opportunity, although obviously at the worst of times, to get to know the family of George Cox Jr., particularly his father. With them, like so many other family members of missing people, the thought of not knowing where your family member is a heavy burden to carry, causing an indescribable amount of stress, anguish, and sadness that one cannot begin to understand unless going through it, including me. That is certainly the case here, and especially for his mother, who talked to George often, nearly every day. I have talked to both Mr. Cox and Ms. Calloway countless times over the past year and a half, and although I do believe they knew we were trying everything we could to find their son, I'm not sure I ever got off the phone with them thinking I did anything to ease their mind or obvious pain. That is and always will be the toughest part of my job. I will tell you this, Your Honor, one thing that I have learned over my many years of doing missing person investigations that end in homicide, there is one major difference between these cases and a homicide case with no missing person aspect. With the homicide investigation, for lack of a better description, there is closure for the family from the onset. They unfortunately know their loved one is deceased and can start the healing process right away, so to speak. With the missing person investigation that concludes in homicide, that is not the case. These families endure an additional time frame of pain and suffering, in this case 7 months, with just not knowing where their loved one is and always holding out hope, as they should, that their family member is at least alive. That's an additional 7 months of stress, sadness, pain, anxiety that the criminal justice system often overlooks, in my opinion. As always, it just didn't need to be this way. It could have been avoided had Diamond Vaden had an ounce of human decency. With Diamond Vaden, Your Honor, don't be fooled. She is well-spoken, polite, intelligent, and presents herself well. What you are looking at, Your Honor, is a wolf in sheep's clothing. Over my 30 years, Diamond can lie and manipulate like no one I have ever encountered. She will look you in the eye, knowingly lie, and be very believable all the same. It's a terrible talent she certainly possesses. While conducting this investigation and learning how she communicates and interacts with people before and certainly after her arrest, Diamond will manipulate, use, deceive anybody, including family, to get what she wants. She is the master manipulator. She has no limitations on her manipulation or deception to get what she wants. In short, everything about Diamond Vaden is centered around Diamond Vaden. On my third and final conversation with Diamond, I told her, other than telling me her name, everything she has told me has been a lie. No statement in this investigation is more true. I can say with certainty that Diamond Vaden has zero remorse. She does not have any resemblance of her moral compass. Why she is like this, I cannot say. I can say that it is not because of the way she was raised. By all accounts, her parents are good people, hardworking, ethical, and most importantly, caring. From doing missing person investigations, I've learned many things. But one thing that I've learned without question, that there is a lot of kids that have terrible parents and still manage to be good, productive people despite their parents. However, and equally true, there are a lot of good parents that have terrible children to no fault of their own. That latter is certainly the case here. Diamond gets and deserves full credit for the person she is. This crime was horrific, Your Honor. The attempt of cleaning up the crime scene told the story of the type of person we were dealing with. The blood, Your Honor, was everywhere. Walls, floors, doors, just everywhere. Killing anyone for any reason takes a special kind of person. To knowingly, willingly, and consciously dispose of a human being in the manner that was done in this case, as they say in poker, that is going all in on the self-centered and malicious person you are. In closing, I want to thank the court for this opportunity, as well as to Prosecutor Strang and Prosecutor McNair, the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office in general, for their dedication and hard work in getting justice the Cox family and society deserve. I also want to thank the members of the Cleveland Police Homicide Unit, which are just about all here, as well as the supervisors, along with the Cleveland office of the FBI for their help and support in this investigation. Although I may be the face of this investigation, it certainly was not a one-man job. I have always and will respect the courts and their sentencing decisions in these cases, Your Honor. I respectfully request the court to impose the maximum sentence allowed, as I feel is more than warranted. Should that not be the court's decision, I do respectfully request the court to remember and consider those long 7 months the Cox family had to endure, waiting for their closure, and to add those 7 months to the end of the sentence. Thank you.
Ms. Vaden, this is your sentencing, so you have an opportunity to speak to the court. Would you like to speak? What would you like to say?
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's very unfortunate that two families are here today. What I do want to say is there have been situations that I've been in that I have walked away from due to violence. I wasn't raised that way. I wasn't raised in a household with a guy putting their hands on a woman. So there was a lot of times where I had to walk away from a situation other than being left from a situation. So I do regret, and I do think about it every day, that I wasn't able to help him, that I wasn't able to call the police because I panicked. I walked away from a situation that was very, 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 it was just a lot. It was a lot for me to deal with, and I truly am very, very sorry for what happened to George. Me and George had an up and down relationship. It was good, it was bad, it was not always perfect, but I am a person that is a loving and caring person. And one thing about me, I'm not a person that's going to hurt you for no reason, or I'm not a type of person that just wants to just bully you or just put you in harm's way. So I do want to say I'm sorry for the family. I have got to know them. They really didn't get to know me, so they just seen one side of a relationship. They didn't really see the side, that I brought. But I do appreciate my family for supporting me. They've been here through this whole process. Mentally, I'm still trying to figure everything out, but it was a reason why God brought me here, to keep me safe, honestly. Because I actually was not safe. I was not safe with him, and I was not safe in the community. And like I said, it's unfortunate, but I'm very, very, very sorry. Thank you.
You just heard it straight from the courtroom. You heard the charges. You heard the sentence. And if you watch that footage closely, you may have noticed something that the judge himself pointed out. Diamond Vaden sat there without a single visible crack of remorse. No breaking down. No moment where the weight of what she did seemed to land on her shoulders. 19 to 25 years. That is what the court decided George Cox Jr.'s life was worth measuring against. And while a part of you might feel relief that she is off the streets, another part of you, if you're anything like me, is sitting with a quiet anger that doesn't have anywhere clean to go. Because here is what keeps coming back. George was alive. He wasn't gone when this started. He was conscious. He was bleeding, yes, but he was there. He was present. He was a human being who could feel pain, who could speak, who was asking for help. And in that apartment, in those hours, every single person who knew made a choice. Diamond Vaden made a choice. William Rogers made a choice. Donald Humphrey made a choice. None of them chose George. And then there is his father. Think about what that man walked into. He goes to check on his son. The apartment has been cleared out, wiped, emptied, like George never existed there. But you cannot scrub everything. Blood has a way of holding on even when people want it gone. He saw something that told him his son had not just walked away. And instead of being brushed off, instead of accepting the silence, he pushed. He filed that missing persons report. He kept asking questions that people around him were not giving straight answers to. For 6 months, that man did not know where his son was. 6 months of not knowing whether George was cold, whether he was scared, whether there was any chance, however small, that he was still out there somewhere. 6 months of a phone that didn't ring with the news he needed. And then came May 16th, 2025. Kayakers on the Huron River. A discovery no one should ever have to make. A body so badly decomposed that the autopsy could not even fully confirm the cause of death. But what the evidence made clear was this. George Cox Jr. did not end up there by accident. He was brought there, wrapped, bound, discarded, like he was something to be gotten rid of rather than someone to be mourned. Now I want to talk to you directly for a moment, because this channel has always been about more than just the fact of a case. What this story forces us to sit with is uncomfortable, because Diamond Vaden did not snap in a single second and lose all sense of herself. Between the moment George was stabbed and the moment his body was dumped 75 miles away, there was time, there were decisions, there were at least 2 other people pulled into this. That is not a moment of blind rage. That is a series of choices, made one after another, each one compounding the last. And that is the part that should stay with you. We often talk about these cases like the worst moment is the crime itself. But sometimes the real story is everything that happens in the minutes and hours after, when someone still has a chance to do the right thing and keeps choosing not to. George Cox Jr. could have lived. That is not speculation. That is a reality that Vaden's own Google search confirms. She was checking his odds, which means she knew there was a chance. And she still made the call she made. George Cox Jr. was 32 years old. He had a father who loved him enough to refuse to let his disappearance become a cold case. He had people who kept his name alive when the people responsible were hoping the world would forget. And today his story is being told, not because it is shocking, though it is, but because he deserves to be more than a news headline. Say his name, George Cox Jr. If this story moved you, if it made you think, if it made you feel something, drop a comment below. Tell me what part of this case hit you hardest. And if you think someone else needs to hear this story, share this video. That is how we make sure cases like George's don't disappear into silence. I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe out there.